Let's talk about if you're going to serve on a condo board now, there's some new requirements within that new legislation. What's the new requirements?
Absolutely. So, well, let's break it into two different categories. You've got one set of requirements for homeowners associations and one set of requirements for condo associations. So, for homeowners associations, you used to be able to sign a document when you got on the board saying, I've read the governing documents of the community. I agree that I'm going to follow all this stuff. Or you could take what's called a board certification course, which is a 2-hour legal course that kind of teaches you the ropes of being on an HOA board. With the new statute, they've eliminated your ability just to sign that document. You have to take a course now, and it has to be this 2-hour course. Previously, also, once you take that course, it was good forever. As long as you're on the board, you're good. Now it's only good for 4 years. Every 4 years, you have to retake the course. The other change that happened with the statute is that there's a continuing education requirement. As attorneys, we have to take continuing education every 3 years, a certain number of hours. Now, homeowners association boards, even though you're just volunteers, if you have 2,500 or less units in your community, you need to do 4 hours a year of continuing education. If you have more than 2,500, it's actually 8 hours a year. Condos, the change there is similar. You do have to take continuing education hours as well.
If you don't mind, let's go back. So we're talking
Sure.
about HOA for homeowner communities.
Mm-hmm.
To take the CLEs, to take the course, there's a fee associated with that, I'm sure. Is the HOA going to reimburse the board member for doing that?
There's nothing in the statute that says that the association can't pay for those fees. My recommendation, though, would be to probably not do that. There's been so much legislation right now about money changing hands and being used for board member-based issues that it probably just is a good idea to stay clear from that. But also, I think that there's a lot of attorneys and other vendors that are willing to give these types of courses for free. So I'm sure there is a paid component to it if you wanted to go that route, but you can probably find free opportunities for it as well.
Do you think those courses will be done online or in person somewhere?
Probably both. Our firm is looking at getting accredited to do these courses, and we'll do a mixture of online and in person.
And so far as the feedback is concerned from your board members, are they saying, oh, I'll never do that, I quit, I'll never do CLE, I'll never take a course, that's too much? Or are they saying, okay, good idea, I'm down, I'll do that?
Reactions are mixed. You've got some folks that are really into this stuff, and they're taking all sorts of seminars and classes and workshops all the time anyway, just because they want to know what's going on in the world. Others, hey, let's face it, they're volunteers. They've got lives, they've got families, they're not getting paid anything for this, and they're already devoting a lot of their time, and now this is one more thing they have to do. So,
and what do you think they're learning at these courses? Are they learning like the new commercial parking regulations, learning that they can't take kickbacks from vendors? Just the basics.
Hopefully that's
kind of
something they
stuff?
didn't have to just learn just from a course. So hopefully they knew that to begin with. But yeah, that'll be part of it. But it's more than just legal requirements. There's accounting requirements as well. Basically, how does a budget work? What should you be putting aside in your reserve accounts to help fund items in the community that are going to have to be replaced in 10, 15 years, like resurfacing a pool or replacing a roof on a clubhouse, something like that. That would all be included as well.
All right, so all good stuff. So we just talked about the new requirements for board members in a homeowner association. Now let's talk about the requirements for a condo HOA.
Condo are similar, but what's interesting about condos is that the requirements are actually lower. You don't need 4 credit hours a year, you just need 1. Which is surprising to me because condos are actually more complicated than homeowners associations are. There's just the association is responsible for a lot more stuff in a condo association. So it's surprising to me that the legislation on HOAs has gone further than condos have on this. But condos, it's not too bad. HOAs have it worse.
And the law went into effect July 1 of 2024. How long do they have to complete these courses?
They have until the end of the year. So they've got a full year now to make sure they knock these credit hours out.
Okay, so we know that they now have to take these courses, which all in all, probably a good idea. You and I talked earlier about possibly the requirement that they have to comply with the new, what was the federal?
The Corporate Transparency Act, the CTA.
CTA, okay. So the new law, federal law is if you're a stockholder or board member in a corporation, you have to fill out a form and give some basic information to the government.
That's right.
And that was going to apply to people on HOA boards and still applies or might apply or unknown at this moment in time?
Unknown at this moment in time. I think that the concept behind this was it was really geared towards not for profits, and associations kind of got lumped into that pile. But the reality of it is that HOAs are, these are volunteers. They're not making any money off of this. And so the legislation, if it does apply to them, will require them to give things like their driver's license or perhaps even their social security number, which already it's difficult to find people that are willing to serve on these boards, and having them disclose that type of personal information will likely only make it harder. There was an appellate case that came out a few months ago that determined that this CTA, the Corporate Transparency Act, was unconstitutional, as the government was going too far and there was no legitimate reason of why they needed this information. We don't really know where this is going to go. That act, that case law didn't apply to everyone. It just applied to the parties of that case. But again, similar to the last issue we talked about, they have until the end of the year to submit this information. We're telling our clients, let's just hang tight. It's only July right now. A lot can happen between now and December.
Can HOA board members be paid for their services, or is there a law against it, or is it simply bad practice to do such a thing?
It is something that could be possible if your governing documents for your association give board members the ability to do that. I can tell you that none of our clients operate like that, and I would strongly discourage anyone from operating like that. Even if you could arguably make an argument that you could thread the needle and we could figure out a way to make this work, it's not worth it. The appearance of impropriety would be so great. It's just, don't go down that road.
Within a board itself, typically an HOA board has a management company, wouldn't they, to collect the HOA fees and so forth, and hopefully do a lot of the behind-the-scenes work?
Yeah, so that's called a community association manager. The acronym is CAM, is what most people refer to them. And this is someone that is licensed by the state.
1 minute.
They are the ones that have the ability to really make a lot of decisions on behalf of the association, pursuant to the authority that the board of directors has given them. They're collecting assessments, they're enforcing restrictions, they're helping them with their budgets, and they're a good person to lean on for the board who, as we've mentioned multiple times here, they're volunteers with not a lot of training on this stuff, and you've got a licensed person that this is their job to help them.
All right, folks, my guest today is attorney Patrick Burton with the DeMasi Burton Law Firm right here in Orlando. They represent HOAs throughout Central Florida. If you want to reach us with your legal question, you call 407-916-5400.